I'd like to call the meeting to order this morning for our regular meeting of City Council for June 13th, 2022. Our first order of business this morning is our delegations. And our first delegation is Greg Apollonio from the Kalihi South Peace Filipino-Canadian community in attendance for our proclamation. And so if you guys would like to come up and join us, and yeah, everyone. Yeah. Good morning.
Long time no see.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Nice to see you here this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So it's my pleasure to read the proclamation this morning. Whereas Filipino associations and societies were first established in 2017 and evolved into some of the largest, oldest, and most active Filipino groups in the Peace region. And whereas today Filipino organizations with primary goal to increase understanding among Filipino immigrant and Canadian, especially Dawson Creek culture. And whereas the spirit of the Bahamian,
You did great.
I'm okay.
That's great.
helping one another to achieve a goal is strong among us. And so are the values of fun, culture, and family. And now, therefore, I hereby proclaim the month of June 2022 be known as Filipino Heritage Month in Dawson Creek. And so yesterday, June 12th, was the 123rd, fourth Independence Day, and we raised the flag at the City Hall lawns and had a bit of a ceremony. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be there yesterday to do that and raise that flag for our Filipino residents and community, and the message about how important the residents are in our community and what you brought to our community in terms of, it says it here, fun, culture, and family. And to me, the observation of the last 9 years as mayor working and engaging with the Filipino community has been that family, our community, and supporting each other and the hard work that you bring to our community. And we just offer congratulations and thank you to you for being a strong part of Dawson Creek. And I asked a question yesterday. It was surprising to me. The Filipino community today in Dawson Creek is approximately 1,200 strong.
Yeah.
And so how amazing, how good is that for our community? So congratulations.
Thank you.
So we'd be happy to have you say some words if you'd like to.
Oh, okay. Am I ready to this? Okay. So, okay, good morning first. Hello, I'm Greg. Meet Jackie.
Hello.
Meet Novi, and of course Emily, our
Hello,
officers
good
and
morning,
members of the Kalihi. So nice to see you here. Of course, nice to see familiar faces. And of course, again, thank you very much for always honoring the Filipino community yearly, especially from Mayor Dale, during each of our yearly Independence Day celebration. So we are so honored for including us in your community and for recognizing our contribution. And that means to us a lot for us. I said to Mayor Dale yesterday, I think the community or the Filipino community will not thrive if we are not recognized or we are not being included or acknowledged. Because of course, sometimes if we are just on the backseat, so sometimes you tend to to low down, not excel. But because of you and of course Mayor Dale's support, we are thriving. We are doing our best to be a worthy part of this community. And I said yesterday as also, that's why we're increasing in number, because we love Dawson Creek. We love the people here in the community, the opportunities, of course. Even it's really 7 months or sometimes six months winter, we don't mind because the people the people here are so warm, and that duplicate the sense of community. And because of that, we have something for you from the Philippines. Mayor, you forgot. This one is going to your wall.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a pin for the pin wall of pins.
Because I always go here in the city hall, and I looking at the pins on the board. Oh, I'm not seeing any Philippine flag there. So that's why it's time to have this flag to be there. Okay.
When he gets called to the principal's office.
Yeah. And now he is now adopted son and his wife yesterday as Filipino. So, and now we will present you something from the Philippines. Only 6, only for the councillor. So, for everybody. Okay, don't expect. Okay, don't expect. I'm looking for Jeremy yesterday, but he went ahead. So Jeremy, this is okay. I would like to take to my preferred time. This is like a lanyard or welcoming to Filipinos are even Canadians are so welcoming, hospitable. But if you come to the Philippines, normally we will give each visitor from other countries or not even foreigners, but even visitors to give this to every visitor. So this represents one of our colorful festival in the Philippines, which is the Mascara Festival, which is like a masquerade from the City of Smile in the Philippines. So this is mascara, normally happens during summertime, and this type of activities. So I don't mind. So Jeremy, just switch if you have any color preference.
Thank you.
And of course, Carly. I don't know who else here. Haley.
Thank you.
So, sorry on this one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sorry. Oh yeah, picture.
Yeah.
You're gonna hang with these folks. You're gonna get your picture taken.
Thank you. Thank you.
We need one more, or two more, or four more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care of that. The special.
Have a nice day.
It's from the Philippines.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Need to brace. I need to do this. Thank you very much. Like this. Thank you.
Since he didn't bring you a gift.
I'm sorry.
Our next delegation this morning is John Buchko, the Principal Environmental Design Solutions. The Principal from Environmental Design Solutions. And he's going to present this morning on the process for Culture, Parks, and Recreation Master Plan for the City of Dawson Creek. Good morning, John. Welcome. We'll pass the floor over to you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your worship, members of council. Always a pleasure to meet with dignitaries and share what the exciting things that we're working on with administration. As mentioned, my name is John Buchko. I'm principal of EDS. I've been working with the community now for the last few weeks and really excited to get this project underway. Today, I'm going to speak of who we are as a firm, some of the guiding principles of this project. We're going to talk about the process and how we're going to get to our destination, the schedule that we're going to complete over the next number of months, and then next steps for this project. So EDS Group, we're a firm based out of Northern Alberta. We work across Alberta and British Columbia. Some work as far east as the Greater Toronto area, but we focus on certainly the Peace region and Northern Alberta. We're supported by a group called Quantum Recreation. They're specialists in recreation components, while we're focusing on the parks and the outdoor open space components, the public engagement, and certainly packaging your final document. We have a very strong focus on public and stakeholder engagement. We like to say we do it better than most. We really like to dive deep, and we really feel that strong stakeholder engagement really leads to a fantastic product. Probably our one passion that we have is connecting people with the natural environment. So human connection to nature and urban environments is very important to us, and which certainly comes well into handy within your community, having so many natural assets within and certainly surrounding the community, everything from the natural environment of the creek to the view sheds and the great vistas that you have around Dawson Creek. Really promoting authenticity is something that's extremely important. That comes intrinsic with the stakeholder and public engagement process, and really diving deep to understand what is genuine, authentic, realistic for Dawson Creek to make sure that the plan really is yours, and it's something that's going to last the test of time and is really representative of who the community is. So this is really a resident first type of plan. Some of the guiding principles with this project, first off, is safety and comfort of all your public facilities, parks, and open spaces. We do, to some extent, address non-city-owned assets. As an example, we look at schoolyards, we look at third-party operators. We certainly don't tell them in the plan how to change or manage their property, but we certainly recognize that recreation, parks, and culture is offered more and beyond just city assets. We want year-round activities. We are a winter city, and it's important that we address wintertime and ensure that parks, recreation, and culture is celebrated throughout the year, not just during the defined summer months when you can have your summer fairs. We want to ensure that facilities and amenities are accessible, and this is not just physical accessibility. It's attainable for people that are low or to no income. It's tangible and available to tourists and residents alike. So all walks of life, regardless of your age and abilities, parks, culture, and recreation should be attainable. We're going to look at optimization of facilities, promoting the use outside of peak time. So trying to find opportunities to promote programming, use of parks, facilities, and open space throughout the day, into that shoulder areas of early morning into the evenings. Rather than building new, we want to work with what we have the best we can. A very important one to us is an improved environmental ethic. There's a few reasons for this. Primarily, we have some obligations under provincial and federal acts and legislation to conform to their requirements as it relates to things like creeks or riparian areas, even urban forests and wildlife. But at the same time, we want to follow the trend in parks, open space, and recreation that we are seeing right across Canada, where people have a much stronger environmental ethic and affinity for the natural environment. How we get there, we started off with a background review. We've gone through hundreds of pages of documents, past reports, past plans, strategic plans, booking schedules, booking statistics. All of this tells us a good picture of what Dawson Creek has for capacity as it relates to its facilities, what you are doing for cultural events, and what the lay of the land is. We've done a site evaluation, gone through every parks and open space. We've crawled through the basement of all of your facilities to understand how they operate mechanically and functionally for the various uses. We then had an internal staff workshop with a number of individuals from administration, again, to learn about the way in which we operate, everything from maintenance of lawn to operations of buildings and repairs. We last week held some stakeholder engagement sessions. We had an all afternoon and an evening session with a number of stakeholders that were invited. Over 170 individuals, different groups were invited to come to our sessions. We had over, I believe, 45 participate. So a very good session for us to go through a number of tasks and learn a lot more about the community and to ensure that stakeholders are brought along the way and they're sharing important information. Moving forward, we're now going to start assembling a draft report and the mapping that's required for this plan. That is then going to go through a public engagement program. So we're going to arrive at the summer fair. We're excited to be there to share some of the draft results of the plan. And then we're going to re-engage those original stakeholders to go back to them to ensure that they feel that they've been adequately heard, what we're saying is factually accurate, meets their needs, and just to create some excitement of the plan moving forward. We then finalize the plan throughout the fall, and then the intent is to have this complete sometime in September. As I mentioned earlier, engagement is extremely important. Public participation is at the forefront of this master plan. It doesn't happen in isolation. And we follow the IAP2 spectrum. This is industry standard for us to use this as kind of a platform by which we make decisions and how we guide our engagement process. What this demonstrates is different groups have different levels of engagement. So certainly the project leadership team under Shantae and her fantastic team, they're empowered. They're helping us make decisions. They are the decision makers. City staff, then we collaborate. So it's a different type of engagement, a different type of exchange, nonetheless very collaborative. Our key stakeholders are on the involved column. So again, a two-way interaction so that we are sharing with them information, they're sharing information with us and helping guide the plan. So I won't go through all of these, but just to give you some a sense of the various types of strategies that we use through engagement. We're also excited this fall, before the plan is finalized, to be able to get into classrooms and work with students. We think that's just a fantastic opportunity for us to share this with the next generation of planners. For our project schedule, there's generally 3 phases. We've now just completed phase 1. That's the background review and initial engagement. We're now well into phase 2 with the reporting, the public engagement process that'll take place this summer, as I mentioned, at the summer fair. Phase 3 is the validation, finalizing the report, going through council to ensure you're comfortable with the results, and then to be determined whether this is endorsement, acceptance, or a plan that you're going to approve. This is not a statutory plan. This is a guiding document as a master plan that hopefully the teeth and rigor of it will be developed through the other plans such as bylaws or even strategic plans that will look to this plan for some direction moving forward. We've created a project website. This is just the home screen from it. We've had the great fortune of having a link to this site off of the City of Dawson Creek's main page. So if you go to the main page, you click on the icon for the Culture, Parks and Recreation Master Plan. It'll take you here. This is one great one-stop shop repository to give you background information about the project. If there are public surveys active, which we currently do have a survey that's open for about another week. It also gives us a timeline so residents and stakeholders can see where we're at in the process and just allow that interaction throughout the project. We also have some links to important documents that'll help give people some background. The key message here is we're ensuring that this is open, transparent, very accessible to the public and to stakeholders. As for next steps, we're going to be creating a What We Heard report, and that'll be posted to the website in about a week. We just went through, as I mentioned, the engagement process last week with stakeholders, and that gave us a lot of information, a lot of background information that we want to share. Once the household survey closes next week, we can then put this What We Heard report on there that says, here's what we've heard, here's what we're going to do to it, and here's what it means to the plan. We're then going to complete the draft report and the mapping that's required for this plan. This summer, we're excited for, as I mentioned, at the fair to be able to have a presence there to share some of the results with the plan, get more feedback from the public, and then go through the plan endorsement process through administration and council this fall. Just wanted to talk about some of the outcomes of the plan and really what does a master plan give us. It's going to give us a set of clear, reasonable, and measurable actions. We want to ensure that these are, when I say reasonable, they're within the means of the municipality. We don't want to be proposing things that are lofty, out of place, certainly not financially feasible or within the means of the municipality. We also want to make sure they're measurable so that in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, we can assess our progress on the plan and make sure that we are following suit and that we're meeting the objectives of the plan for it to be successful. The next outcome is developing new partnerships, certainly through the engagement process, bringing these stakeholders side by side, learning about each other's initiatives, capabilities, volunteer resources. It's a way for groups to look at each other and to decide how they can have some synergies and potentially work together. So this is not just about how the city interacts with stakeholders, it's how stakeholders can also work together. We've certainly realized in many, many past plans, cities can't do this alone. And stakeholders, sport groups, cultural organizations, it takes everybody to work together to see some successful plans. The next outcome is a defined roadmap. So it's going to deliver a set of cultural activities, the recreational services, how we're going to manage parks and facilities. It's going to give us a fairly clear indication of how we can do that moving forward. So we call it a roadmap. It takes you along the journey, but there is some ebb and flow. There is opportunity for this plan to be dynamic, for it to be a living plan and to follow the times. Lastly, we're hoping this process is going to demonstrate to the city how valuable public and stakeholder engagement can be in planning processes. So hopefully this becomes a model of how future plans are developed within the city. So that's my talk. I'll be certainly happy to take any questions. As I understand it, I'm doing a very similar, if not the same presentation this afternoon as well for a select group. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them now. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Dober.
I can actually just wait till this afternoon.
Okay.
For the
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, John, for your presentation. You mentioned past plans, and I don't know off the top of my head, so I was hoping you might have some insight. When was the last time the city did a plan like this? And if you know, number one, I would ask staff to forward along a copy of that plan. And number two, how successful would we say we were in pursuing that plan? Because in my experience, sometimes, initiatives like this are wonderfully intended, but they oftentimes end up on a shelf somewhere and aren't referenced as cities do that. And I mean, that's on us, not you, but just in your professional opinion, given the last plan, how well were we, or how faithful were we to it, or how well was the city served by it, would you say?
Yeah, through the chair to you, Councillor, I'll say that the past plan was done about 20 years ago. So that is a significant amount of time. That plan has likely been long forgotten in that it has a shelf life of itself. And I'll ask administration maybe to speak to the success of that plan because we're less familiar with it. Some of the background reports that I refer to, so one is certainly that past plan, which has some merit. It was a snapshot, again, from over 20 years ago. But we look at alignment with things like your strategic plan, your official community plan, land use bylaws, engineering practices, and municipal standards of how things are built and developed. So we look at an array of existing tools and reports that you have, again, to ensure alignment. We also look at some bylaws, and there may be some conflicts. So through the end of this, we may, for example, speak to, let's say, the off-leash dog areas, just as an example. But you may not have a bylaw that supports that we want to ensure that there are the regulatory tools once the actions are developed by the plan that align with this. So we're not necessarily writing the bylaws, but we would certainly make recommendations to say, when you do revisit your, let's say, your parks bylaw, here's a component that you need to do to catch up. So ensuring alignment is important. We're not working within the confines. We want to do a solid, good plan that has clear, measurable actions that actually can be implemented. And again, as I mentioned, having those metrics are extremely important. And then that way, on an annual basis, as budgets are being deliberated on, the priorities can be set forth by what the plan dictates.
Shante?
Through your worship, the plan was done in 2006 from PERC. We had a recreation commission at that time, and the plan was being followed for the first 3 to 4 years, and then the direction changed once we got the South Peace Multiplex, and we started working a little bit with hockey and doing some of those things as well. So we need to do a lot of work on parks and playgrounds. Our facilities are in pretty good shape, but some of those areas we do need to work on that did get laid on the backside when we kind of changed direction within sport tourism and put some resources into that relationship.
Thank you. Any further questions? The one comment for me that I want to ask is two things. Parks, recreation are two big pieces of our community, and so an example of how strong we are as a service center is the number of users that come from outside our community to use our facilities and enjoy the use of the facilities. And so I'm assuming some of that data that was obtained from rural folks and other communities leveraging our facilities were they included in it. And the second piece to that is in our parks, and it was surprising to me in 2016, I think, when we had to close Rotary Lake and we did those public meetings, half of the people that were there were people from outside our community who looked to the community for those things. So to me, I guess that's how strong as a service area we are for everyone in the region. And so were they involved, other regions, other communities, and our rural folks involved and engaged in the survey and stakeholder groups? Chante?
Yeah, to the chair, in the engagement process, we certainly focused on local stakeholders, on the local groups within the city itself. But we do recognize that recreation park culture stems and stretches far past the community. When asking about some of the defining characteristics of Dawson Creek, it was the surroundings. It was the the hills, the river valleys, the plains, the agricultural areas. So certainly there is influence on the community. It's not that inclusive. But at the same time, there are mechanisms that the city has, and Shante and others can probably speak to this more eloquently, but there are opportunities where the regional district does make contribution, recognizing that there is a larger catchment area of those that benefit from the facilities, amenities within the city.
Shante?
Through your worship, what we're planning on doing as well, meeting out with first of all, Peace River Regional District reached out to us, so we're going to do that session with 2 electoral area directors, as well as council this afternoon. And then throughout the rest of the sessions, the open sessions, that will be able to include everybody within the community and the region. We also did, another thing I need to do too, is we also did 2 others, reports. One was on with PERC again with the indoor facilities. So we did that whole study in 2016 as well to determine what we need to do for a facility. And then we also did the other one that was the rural to determine who was using our facilities, which was in 2019, I believe, as well.
Thank you. Any further questions? John, thank you so much. We'll look forward to having a more fulsome discussion, hopefully this afternoon with council and our other partners. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Our next delegation this morning, 2.3, we have David Radigan and Andrew Ho from the Dawson Creek Disc Golf Course in attendance to do a presentation to council. And I'm sorry, I don't know the other gentleman. Trevor, nice to have you here. Welcome. David, have a chair and turn the mic on and you're good to go. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having us. My name is David Radigan. I'm the president of the Dawson Creek Disc Golf Club. I also have with me Trevor Bouvier, our vice president, and Andrew Ho, a longstanding club member, also one of our local businessmen and a big supporter of disc golf in Dawson Creek. So I believe I have a PowerPoint. If we'll wait to see. There are some essential maps that were included in the PowerPoint. But while we wait for them to pull it up, I'll use my time. So who we are as a club, we have existed in Dawson Creek since 2015. Both Trevor and Andrew were club members back then. I myself did not move to Dawson Creek till 2017, but became a club member shortly thereafter. This year we have 40 club members. We've grown each year. Typically we have far more than that actually play in the community. Members are encouraged to sign up because it helps with course maintenance and insurance and keeping the course open. But our course does serve a broad spectrum of people in the city. We use an app called UDisc that I will be referring to later, where I have some data. Oh, excellent! The PowerPoint is there. So yes, our club was founded in 2015. And like most groups, we've had bumps and challenges along the road, but we're glad to continue to grow and give back to the community in various ways. You can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. As a club, we host and facilitate weekly disc golf events. We do league nights every Monday throughout the spring to almost till snowfall. We'll play even glow disc rounds in the evening to try to utilize the lack of daylight. So the discs actually have a pigment that makes them glow, and you hit them with a UV light, and you can play in the night. It's very fun. We're very involved in the community. Andrew Ho, we've been working together to create some documents to help with some grant writing processes, but essentially documented, we've been a part of city cleanups for several years. When the Parks and Rec do their park and play days, we try to come out and set up a basket. We've also been out for the Dawson Creek Multicultural Fusion Festival and community sign up. And so we are looking to support recreation in the city as much as we can because we love disc golf and we think that it's a really accessible sport. I didn't mention on the last slide, but we have club members. My daughter is 5. She plays disc golf. And we have members upwards 70 years old who also play disc golf. So it's a very accessible sport. It's not limited to just young people. Anybody can play. And we do see a broad spectrum of people playing. So yeah, recently we gathered discs from our membership and the local retailers to supply the Puskupi Library and our Dawson Creek Municipal Library, and these discs can be borrowed for free like books. This program is starting its second year, and we hear very good things. And there's much, much more that we do in the community. But for the sake of time, I'm going to move forwards to what we're looking at. So disc golf has grown. You can move forwards to the next slide, please. Disc golf has grown significantly in the world. Throughout the pandemic, it was very accessible. It was an outdoor activity. So globally, it grew almost 100%. Like there's a professional disc golf association, and they saw people registering or becoming members. Their membership rate grew. They were at the 100,000, I believe, membership number, and they reached the 200,000 because each person gets a unique number within like 2 years. So it took them 20 years to get to 100,000, and it took them 2 years to double that number. So it's grown significantly. Within our region, we've seen we put a temp course in Poos, and then also Grand Prairie has opened 2 new courses in the last 5 years, and Fort St. John has opened 2 courses. So within the Peace area, there's a lot of growth in disc golf. If you move to the next slide, you can see the growth there. So it is detailed in darker shades, essentially showing 2020. Oh, thank you. Growing the most. I will move forward. And that just has data showing that that's how many rounds were scored on UDisc. So specifically on UDisc, we have data from Dawson Creek. From our course here, we have a course in the Barbary and Chamberlain Memorial Park that is on, if you drive down 15th Street going south and the 15th Street bridge that goes over the creek, you'll see our course on your right and your left. So our course has been played, just recorded on UDisc, 3,845 times in the last 5 years. And that's just data from people that have the app, that punch into the app. We estimate that there's about 5 times that many rounds played. I've met several folks here in town that had no idea what UDisc are, but they play disc golf every single morning at like 5 in the morning, and they just quietly walk the course and play. So disc golf, in our town, it takes about an hour to an hour and a half to play a round. You walk about 6,000 to 8,000 steps. So if you have your Fitbit tracker, you're getting your steps in. And so we're estimating that it's about 20,000 rounds, or even 20,000 hours of recreation have been provided to Dawson Creek residents and the area around in the last 5 years, which is significant. I'll touch on these reasons to invest in disc golf, but later in the slide, we'll get to our club has fundraised and installed the baskets at no cost to the city. The city has supported us with the park space. We have a lease as far as usage, park usage, and they graciously cut the grass, which we're very thankful for the department that takes care of all the maintenance. But essentially, our club has fronted the cost for the baskets and provided the recreation at no cost to the city thus far. And so we're essentially asking for investment. So reasons to invest. Disc golf is very affordable and accessible. You can pick up 2 Frisbees or discs for about $20 to $30, and you can go out and play. When I started in 2017, we were pushing my daughter in a stroller, saw the baskets, went, oh, that's disc golf. Bought a couple discs from Andrew at the Northern Toy Box and tucked them in the bottom of the stroller, and we just played our own way. We didn't know that there was a map or a way to go. Just went, there's a basket, we'll throw from here. And that's how we started, my wife and I. It promotes health and well-being. So people are out there walking 6,000 to 8,000 steps. It's a low-impact cardio. It's similar to trail walking, but you're tromping across the grass or going through the trees. It serves more of the community, so it serves a broad spectrum, as I touched on earlier. But I did want to talk about how it stimulates the local economy. We are planning a tournament in 2 weeks in Puskupi. It's a complex issue. There's a professional disc golf association which certifies the baskets that we use. So the baskets that we currently have are an older model that were purchased used by a former club president, and they are not currently sanctioned for tournament use. So in Puskupi, we were able to get these newer baskets, and so we're able to use those for a tournament layout. So part of our ask is that we want to revitalize the course and get new baskets so that we can host tournaments and legitimize the hosting of tournaments so that it's done properly. Similar towns in Grand Prairie, they've hosted upwards of 6 to 8 tournaments per year. I personally traveled to 5 last year, brought my family, hauled my trailer out there. We stayed, we ate food, we spent time in the community. My mom flew up from Vancouver to Grand Prairie and stayed. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking to do here in Dawson Creek, is that we want to be the location for people to travel to come play here. There is a lot of traveling tournaments for disc golf, and people do travel. We've seen guys come down from Whitehorse to play in Grand Prairie, people coming up from Kamloops, Prince George, elsewhere. So it's something that we feel confident would be a positive stimulus for the local economy in Dawson Creek and trickle down to the residents and the city through and through. And the last point there is that it repurposes neglected areas. So we like trees, we like bushes. If you put a basket in a challenging area that nobody would necessarily be walking, it suddenly becomes, you have to shape the throw in such a way to get the disc to go in. And so part of our pitch, as I show you guys the next maps coming forwards here, is that we want to use space that is otherwise not used along the edges of the paths and the walkway that goes through the creek. So our current project, I touched on some of this already. The initial course was only 12 holes. Some layouts use the basket more than once. And we now have 13 baskets, and we have an 18-hole layout, but it crisscrosses multiple fairways. It gets a little bit chaotic. It's grown significantly, and our current layout can no longer facilitate all of the new players. We'll have a lot of backups at the tee. If we host a league night and we have more than 20 people show up, or even 20 people, you might have somebody standing waiting for quite a while before they can safely throw. So we essentially have a proposal for the revitalization of our course and park to better grow disc golf in Dawson Creek. So this is a map of our current layout. You can see 15th Street running directly in the middle there. I hope everyone had a chance to look at this beforehand, so I don't have to go into too much detail, but essentially the baskets are the little basket shape, and the tee pads are a little rectangular shape, and then there's a fairway going from a tee pad, and you can't really see, but they are numbered. And so that is the 13-hole layout that currently exists in the park. 13 holes is not enough for an actual tournament round. So again, if we were wanting to host tournaments and be a standard disc golf course, we're looking to get to that 18 number. So we have been playing this temp layout, and you can see how chaotic that looks, where we're going back to the same baskets multiple times. We added a temporary basket in one spot to try to utilize more space, but it is quite chaotic. So moving forwards, this is the proposed layout. So we formed in October, we formed a design committee in our club, and we had, I believe, 4 or 5 members contributing. And we would walk through the park through the winter and look at different areas, go in the woods and see how can we make this more circular, more functional, so it's not wasting walking space and time, and how can we make it safe, because safety is really important. We're not throwing at people's houses, we're not throwing at the road, and we're also, if we're crossing the path or throwing from a path, you can clearly see both directions so that you're not going to hit anyone. So this is our proposed space. What we're asking essentially is that we can test it. We have some temporary baskets that don't need to be concreted that we would like to set up in the different areas. And then we would just mark the tee areas with some marking paint or some flags, nothing permanent, and test it, allow the club and the community to get out there and see how it is, maybe adjust the basket location a little bit to optimize it, and also to get feedback from the community, from residents, make sure that everybody's pleased with how it looks and how it flows, and that the city is pleased too. So to not go into too much detail explaining, there are more baskets added to the west of 15th Street, going towards the driver house, as you can see there. There's a couple areas that the city would need to cut the grass a bit shorter, but I'm told that's not a huge issue because it's just off the edge of the path, so the tractor could probably go down there. There's one hole that goes in the trees. Long and short, to not get into too much detail, we're looking to add 6 holes. We're going to lose 1 hole for the circle of play, but we're looking to add 6 new holes. And if you have further questions, we can get there at the end. So yes, it's safer to play. It completes the 18-hole course, allowing us to have PDGA sanctioned tournaments, and it utilizes some more space in the trees and bushes that are otherwise underutilized. So moving forwards, I'm going to skip past this slide. Oh yes. I don't feel like I need to go through that too much detail. Moving forwards. So firstly, we're asking that the city allow us to function test this new design. We're prepared to set up temporary baskets and gather public feedback for a period before installing anything permanent. Baskets and fairway placement may need adjusting, and the only way to know this is to play test it. We also want to gather feedback from park users and nearby homeowners and residents to ensure that the redesign is well supported. We don't want to get into spats with neighbors. We want to respect the space and make the park the best functional use for everyone. A note I didn't touch on is that disc golfers are kind of like a roving security. We've caught people trying to break into people's houses before just because we happen to be out there in the evening and somebody's trying to get into someone's garage and we go let the homeowner know and they're like, oh, that person shouldn't have been there. Or in Pooskoopie, we've called in vehicles that have been abandoned and stolen to the police before. So we're not out there to hooliganize. We're out there to try to be safe. And I'm often out there with my 2 kids too. So it's not, it's a good activity. Our hope is that the Mayor and Council will approve this. With their approval, we can set up the temporary course this summer and allow players to test it and then gather feedback for a final draft for possible grant writing purposes. All right. So our request to the city. To date, we've fundraised all prior disc golf equipment and maintenance, and the city has not had to pay for this recreation equipment. However, our current baskets are in need of replacement, and they had been purchased by from another club back in 2015, and so they're kind of at their end of use cycle. Typically, baskets will last 20 to 30 years. This company happened to go out of business, and it's hard to buy replacement parts, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking at total different type of baskets. We're asking that the city consider financially backing the new course for revitalization. Specifically, we're just asking for the funds for the recreation equipment. Our club will commit to installing them to PDGA sanctioned standards. We will volunteer all the hours, man hours to dig the hole, mix the concrete, clear the fairways, all that kind of stuff we will take care of. We're just looking for the capital to get the actual recreation equipment. We're also committed to writing grants and fundraising, but my understanding is that we need capital for certain grants to be able to, like we would ask the city would work it into their budget, and then we can write to NDIT to potentially back pay the city, something along those lines. This is a new process for me though, so I'm happy to be corrected. We're also asking that the city allow us to utilize some more space for the testing period and to install these 6 new baskets. Our action plan. So we have 2 phases. Phase 1, essentially today's ask, is that we get the new baskets and that we can install them. Our optimistic hope was to try to do that by the end of the fall. I understand with budget for 2023, it might not happen this year. That's totally fine. If we could at least test it throughout this year, we'd be satisfied with that. But we're looking to essentially get funding to be able to secure these baskets and to install them. Then phase 2 would be to gather corporate sponsorship to fundraise for tee pads, because that can be an additional cost. So, and that would be later in summer 2023 or spring of 2024. So the estimated cost is here. The baskets, we gathered about 4 different quotes. With brokerage to bring them up from the States or shipping from certain areas, I estimate it could be upwards $14,000. These quotes we gathered earlier in the year. I know with inflation, things may change. As well, you can see the breakdown there, concrete, locks, tool rental, and then the T signs themselves. We're working with a local designer to see if we can get some help there. But to keep the cost low, essentially we're looking for about $16,000 would get baskets and T signs into the ground. And then later we would work towards T pads. So that is it. Do you have any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Good job. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, David, and thank you guys for your presentation. I'm first off, just want to thank you for your presentation. I do a lot of biking through the trails myself and with my family, and I know you guys, the course is utilized a lot, and everybody's very respectful out there. They're not, getting irritated by waiting for people to go by. They're actually going out of their way. So, I appreciate that, and I just wanted to thank you and the members for that. As well as I think, what creates a great community is this kind of thing where you guys are passionate clearly about what you do and you take care of it, and so I'm thankful for that. And I was in Andrew's store a little while ago and seen how many discs are in there, so there's obviously a lot of people that use it. So the baskets, just on your phase 1, is it like it seems like everything that's going on in the world right now, the appreciation, the cost of it, but also being able to get the stuff. Like, are you seeing that type of thing too, or this could be a lot longer delayed because of
Yes.
being made? And
So there is a period of time we have to wait when we put the initial order in before we get them. There is one distributor in Kamloops that we're sort of looking at because price point wise, they currently are manufacturing them in BC. So we would like to go local. I mean, as local as we can, and they're going off of a Innova design. So that would be our number one choice, and we're kind of told that they can supply it quicker than if we go through most of the distributors down in the States. There's a lengthier period of time. I couldn't tell you offhand. I know last year when we had talked about ordering, there was like a 6-month delay for one of the manufacturers, but we have several different quotes, so that'll kind of factor in as to who can deliver at which price point.
Okay.
But we're looking at the local BC company is our number one choice, I think, so.
thank you. And is that something that like has to come from a certain place for your regulations, or could it be made by like a local, as in?
It essentially has to be manufactured, then sent down to be proof tested by the
okay.
Disc Golf Association, which this Kamloops basket was. It's sort of like a new thing. And they just they had a tournament capital open, if you look it up in Kamloops, and they had like over 250 players come in from all over Canada, even the States came up to play, and they actually utilized their baskets there at that tournament and had good success. So yeah,
Okay.
that.
Perfect, thank you. And then just one more question, sorry. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I know Grand Prairie has a pretty big organization as well, and they do a lot of events. Do you know like roughly how many out of town people that brings to Grand Prairie when they do a tournament? And
Yeah, so I went to the Alberta provincial tournament last year, and they had, I believe, 140 registrants. And there were people from Ontario, Manitoba, Winnipeg. I don't know if there was people from Quebec, but people from Whitehorse, and they also had some people come up from the States. So it was very broad, and I'd say that it was probably 75% out of town players and 25% Grand Prairie local players. So it's quite a draw for people to come out of town.
Nice for
And
their economy.
yeah, and lots of people hauled trailers. Like we stayed at South Bear Campground, and there was other people from Fort St. John and elsewhere that had hauled trailers and parked there as well for it. So yeah.
Nice, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you guys for taking the time to come speak with us today. I'd echo Councillor Dober's sentiment that, I think given the amount of resources our city deploys towards recreation and cultural services, to see an organization that is finding a value add for our local parks at no substantive increase in cost to the taxpayers is something that's really heartening to me. So thank you for that, and I'm glad you found a sport you enjoy. And I don't know if this is a question for you, but through you to staff, and I'm just thinking of the sponsorship allowed over at the soccer fields. Does the lease agreement with the Disc Golf Association allow for whole sponsorship on their course at all? Or third-party advertising, I guess I should say?
Through Your Worship, right now, at this present time, it does not offer for
Okay.
the third-party advertising at this point.
Just because I was going to ask some question about what other sources of revenue, and I think provided it's not too ostentatious, that wouldn't be unreasonable, and I think that's a way for them to garner some revenue for operations anyway. And I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure on one of those maps you had 2 hole 7s.
You're right. I made
Somebody
an
was
amendment.
gonna
I read the
notice.
report, man. I
Somebody
read the
reads
report.
You passed the test.
Thank you.
We omitted hole 6 was on the other side of 15th Street, and that hole was omitted, and it was my error. I fixed it, but I couldn't resend the PowerPoint, so my mistake. Essentially, the first hole 7 is hole 6, and then hole 7.
Everything falls apart. You made a mistake.
Excellent.
You were paying good attention.
Excellent. And just one last note, we did have a communique from a local resident. I think at our last meeting we had a look at with respect to, they expressed some concerns about the foot traffic around the area and the disturbance to their house, which was adjacent to, I believe, Barbary Park and some other people along the way. I see in your report you have committed to engaging with those folks to ensure that any additional, course expansion is done in conjunction with, keeping their living area, hospitable. So I hope that alleviates some of those concerns, but I'll certainly keep an eye out for how that develops.
Yes, we also received communication. I'll just go back really quick because I have the power. So there's a hole there. The grass area, it's kind of in the top left area. Oh, is there a pointer too? Which button do I press to point? I don't want to break it. Oh yeah. Oh, all right. So this area, we had looked at putting a hole or even two holes in this area, but we had received communication that there was a concerned resident, there was a fox den or something, and so we took it upon ourselves just to omit those holes entirely. I feel like compromise is very important, and making sure that we're engaging with the community, and so we believe we were able to fit them into other areas. So this again is still sort of a test process, and we might look at maybe some other areas if they come up. But yeah, we certainly don't want to get into spats with people about it, and want to respect the space and make sure we get that engagement happening and people have positive feedback. So,
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and this is a lot of work. So thank you. And I'm aging myself. I remember when the disc golf players first came for their first pilot project to see it put in, and you've come a long way. So you should be very proud of yourselves. It's one of those unique sports that is available for everybody. So thank you for that. Andrew, it's a big task for a small business owner to take on stocking supplies. So thank you for taking that risk. It looks like, it's easy accessible to get as well. The other thing, and Jeremy had asked it and you've answered it, I was going to ask about the local residents and that space. So thank you for hearing them and moving as you can. And the other thing really is an ask aside from disc golf, it's Participation Month. So could you guys all put your steps in for the city's Participation app and get us moving ahead? I know the Trash Pandas are doing it, so I think you guys are another group that could help us with our ranking. So good on you. I look forward to discussing this later with council. But really, I know how much mapping work that took. And so good on all of you for doing that. That's a big undertaking.
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I remember as well when this golf first came. I also remember a few weeks before, no, maybe two council meetings before that, I had seen the arrangements in Grand Prairie and mentioned it, and let's say, was not received very well. And then somebody moved here, either from Grand Prairie or Whitehorse, and gave a fantastic presentation, and then suddenly everybody was enthusiastic. So I'm a little cynical about that. But anyway, I'm a huge fan of everything you guys do, just like my fellow councillors here. I think you represent a good model for others for other sports or other groups to replicate. I would, using a metaphor maybe from basketball, I think you're a slam dunk for an NDIT grant. And I'm not throwing any dispersions here, but to staff, as this is a Dawson Creek-based group, would they be eligible to use the services of our grant writer?
Sorry, Blair. You have to turn your mic on.
All right, thank you. Through your worship, at the present time, the grant writer that is employed by the city is focused on City of Dawson Creek grants per se. Now, because this falls within our park and so on, it would be a discussion we could look at. I do not have a definitive based on kind of the policy we've set at this point.
Yeah,
So.
I was not trying to put anyone in any position.
Oh, no, that's...
Because if there is a problem, I sit on the NDIT, I would willingly work with you and help draft up the thing. But yes, usually there's you need to have a little bit of revenue. Sometimes it's just 10% is sufficient, right? Others it's 30%, but the magnitude of this very small ask is such, I'm sure you wouldn't have to put too much into it. Or it could be in kind, which is what you're talking about. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would like to meet with you and maybe let this roll out, because the NDIT committee meets 4 times a year. So I wouldn't sweat that one. I think you'll get some grant funding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Councillor Dober, did you have an? Okay. All right. Thank you. So thank you, David, Andrew, and Trevor, and we'll bring this back under Mayor's business for the request. And we appreciate you guys. Obviously, has been espoused here. We appreciate the passion for the sport and the community and building recreation. And good job. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
2.4, our next delegation, we have Ray Chapman, the president of the Dawson Creek and District Stable and Arenas Association. And I see Janet is here and Leanne Esau, manager of athletic and community engagement for Northern Lights College. And so welcome. I don't know if we have Patsy. Good morning, you guys. I'm just gonna, if you can push the button on the mic there, I'll, there you go. Good morning, welcome. Good to have you guys here this morning. Floor is yours.
Yeah, Your Worship and council members, we're here on behalf of the Dawson Creek Arena stable users. This is Janet Loisel, myself is Ray Chapman, and this is Leanne Esau from Engage Sport North. And we're here to, we want to do an upgrade or a retrofit to the Lakota Center, and we need your permission to do that. And I'll let Leanne take this and on the PowerPoint. And if there's any questions, we'll have a question period after, or anytime during the, just ask.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, Leanne.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us here, and I hope you enjoy our PowerPoint presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. So I'd like to let you know I'm with Engage Sport North. We deliver the athletic product and recreation at Northern Lights College. My main focus and role is the Northern Lights College Rodeo team. We're a user group at the Dawson Creek, with the Dawson Creek exhibition. We use the Lakota Center for our practice center. And that's kind of my intake and where I'm coming from. And I'll get started with our PowerPoint. So Engage Sport North, formerly Northern Pacific Sport, enjoyed 25 years as a multi-sport organization serving Northern BC. Over the years, Engage Sport North has continued to provide services to the people and communities across Northern BC region, including our role as a consultant for Northern Lights College in the management and delivery of athletics and recreation. The Canadian Intercollegiate Rodeo Association is a nonprofit rodeo association that pertains to Canadian post-secondary education students. Through the National Association, the majority of rodeos are held throughout the province of Alberta. And the sanctioned rodeos are hosted 8 to 10 times a year, with the Canadian College Final Rodeo being held at the end of March, or in this year was May Long Weekend in Brooks, Alberta. Engage Sport North Society, along with Northern Lights College, has recently announced that we want to host our first Canadian College Rodeo to be hosted in BC in the fall of 2022. The Lakota Agriplex is a state-of-the-art equestrian center. The picture here is of Brooks, Alberta, for reference. It's our vision. So what we would like to look at doing is, right now the Lakota accommodates a wide range of interests. The Agri Center houses 110 indoor stalls, 76 tack lockers, complete with wash rack, grooming area. They have an impressive 100 by 240 foot riding arena. The facility already hosts a variety of equine and bovine events, as well as other events requested in various user groups. The association recognizes that the success comes with the need to manage and maintain a facility of this magnitude. Our proposal presenting today is to formally request permission to upgrade the Lakota Agriplex to accommodate the hosting of an indoor college or high school rodeo in the Lakota. sort of thing. And we use the Brooks Arena as a comparison in these pictures, just because their setup is very comparable in size to the Lakota, and it gives you a visual of what the back end might look like. Northern Lights College has substantially invested in the collegiate rodeo team and continued in a long-term program throughout the Peace region. Total investment in upgrades are expected to be about $120,000. We have quotes that I can speak to. Dawson Creek District and Stable Association, Engage Sport North, and Northern Lights College have agreed to work together on obtaining funds to complete the upgrade needed. So why to the upgrades? This one doesn't come through super clear.
It provides an opportunity for individuals to complete the state-of-the-art facility at the City of Dawson Creek. It's a desired location and destination for communities in the north and people coming from the south.
In speaking to the positive impact in hosting events at the Lakota Agriplex, a sample 300-person event over 3 days would produce spending of out-of-town athletes. Non-competing spectators and other parties would be expected to visit in combination with anticipated expenditures made up by the organizer of events would have an anticipated value of $450,000, supporting $750,000 with overall economic activity in Dawson Creek and the Peace region. So as soon as the approval comes from the City of Dawson Creek, we will collectively move forward with our grant and fund proposals to secure funds. Upgrades to start happening as soon as possible. Again, the goal being we would like to follow through with our commitment of hosting the first collegiate rodeo in BC at the Lakota Agriplex this fall. So thank you. And,
Thank you, Leanne. Questions for Council? Councillor Parslow.
Yes, thank you. This is an interesting proposal. Just several questions. The 300 figure that you used in the proposal about economic impact, etc. Does that? What is the capacity for spectators in the Lakota right now?
Currently?
Yeah, roughly 450.
450. So, what was the rationale for having it there as maybe having the event at the multiplex? Because they've had, let's say, bull riding and so on. So I'd like to hear your rationale for.
There's a few things in rationale there. Cost being one of them. It's about double to triple the cost to rent the Eventive Center. There's a lot of manpower involved in putting the dirt, the infrastructure in at the Eventive Center. Down the road, when we get to host the Canadian College Finals Rodeo, which would be a goal, of course, where we bring the best in Canada here for the finals, ideally the focus would be at the Eventive Center, and we'd look at that and probably even partner with Pro Rodeo. Right now, we're looking at something at the Lakota to just kind of start off. Let's us host our first one with a facility that we're comfortable in. We know the ground. We just need to add bucking chutes and raise the sides walls up to a 6-foot fence. And with that, we can host college rodeo, BC high school rodeo that don't have the budget to rent the Eventive Center.
Right.
It just makes more a user-friendly local setting. Also right now, our weekly practices are focused on our timed events. So we can do barrel racing, pole bending, goat tying, stair wrestling, everything except for our rough stock events. We don't have a facility that's heated that accommodates winter practice. So right now we're going to TP Creek, Chetwynd, or private facility at minus with no heat. So by putting in the bucking chutes, we're going to look at the proposal we have is a very minimal impact into the arena. We would be coming about 7 feet in. So the user groups in in looking at what plans they use, they still have plenty of arena space. We just have bucking chutes there, our stock pens behind it, and then we can facilitate like a weekly or monthly rough stock practice, as well as have that capability of hosting a full rodeo, which then
Yeah,
BC
and-
High School Rodeo could approach them to rent.
And we'll rent the breezeway probably at the Ovinto
Yeah.
Center there.
Yes.
We need that.
Yeah,
to host
for-
the rodeo, but for our weekly practices, we won't need that.
Yeah. No, you have a sound rationale for sure. Just one comment again. It seems to me as you're expanding recreational opportunities, I don't know if you've explored this or it doesn't meet your timelines, but you seem to be eligible for an NDIT grant as well.
Yes, it's on our radar.
It's on your radar. That's good.
Absolutely on the radar.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Dober?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I think you answered my one question was about, there's obviously multiple user groups that
There
use
is
the
multiple.
facility. So like
Yes.
making these changes doesn't impact them and
Like I said, the 7 feet in, so barrel racing, we actually did the measurement of where that third barrel sits in the Lakota. And I still have 1 extra foot there before we would have to look at changing existing usage. The cutters would still have plenty of arena room. The renters that rent it, or the stall renters, it won't impact what they do on a daily warm up or how they utilize the horse space. The jumpers also use have a big imprint. The day we went and did some measuring, they had just been set up for a 2-day event, and we were still well within the space that they would be requesting to use. So.
awesome. Thank you.
It's great that we have such a big arena because we have this room to do this development and still have the full use of the length of that arena. We really like having the large barrel racing score pattern. It's great. We're competing at colleges that are very short, like their 14-second barrel runs. We're running 16-second barrel runs. We have a really large pattern already, and all of that will still be able to be in existence.
Yes. That sounds like a all-around win for everybody that
It-
could be involved
Yeah,
in the city.
that's
so,
what we're hoping.
Yeah. Like in your presentation, it did say that you guys would look after the cost. Like, so you're really looking for this city just to be okay with the changes?
We're
And then
just
what's your
looking for a-
timeline on
Sooner than later. So we're just looking for approval because it is infrastructure. We're looking at, it is portable, like it'll be portable panels down the sides and then the bucking chutes across the end. It can all be taken in or out sort of thing if we have to do other things. But ideally, it's about a 6 to 10 week order to get the panels and packaging. I'd like it in by end of August, right? So if we have to have approvals in place, getting our funding, and then going forward, so.
Their college team starts the end of August till May, so it's through the winter months.
Yes.
Perfect.
And, so we'd like to be going by. end of
Yeah, our tentative date for the college rodeos, Thanksgiving weekend. And then we have a backup date of beginning of December. But again, the first time attracting college athletes to BC, they're already balking at December travel. So even though we travel in November, December to them, we want to be really hospitable for our first one and make sure they have the best experience possible. Because ideally we'll host one in the fall, host one in the spring. And we really want the infrastructure in place for perhaps a high school rodeo in September, college rodeo in October. And our practices start in September or the last week of August. So again, any rough stock riders we get, we would like to be, this is our facility and that we rent.
Perfect. Thank you.
From these guys.
Thank you. Anything, Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for coming to speak with us today. First of all, congratulations. I saw recently the article highlighting your program success as the only college rodeo program in BC. So it's great accolades for your organization and attention for the city. So congratulations on that. Secondly, thank you for coming to speak with us proactively about doing infrastructure work at city buildings. That's not always the case sometimes when we're dealing with third parties. So it's I appreciate the proactive nature. If it's just if it's just a sign off to install some infrastructure and you guys are covering the costs, I don't see a huge deal with it. Unless staff contradicts, is there any additional operational costs that'll fall back on the city or? Not that I can say. I mean, we're just utilities and yeah, okay.
Yeah, none that we're aware of at this point. I mean, this is part of the lease agreement. The new lease agreements are where we come together with the city and the leaseholder to talk about what capital upgrades they would be looking at over the next year, up to 5 years. This is a great example of, how that lease agreement with Lakota is working, or with the arena and stable. So I think it speaks volumes about putting something in place and then adhering to the document and seeing how it can work out.
Thank you. So thank you guys for coming in this morning. Appreciate your presentation, and council will deal with the request after mayor's business this morning. So thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Worship.
listening to us. And I have a few parting gifts that I'll leave at the front counter for you guys as well, just from Northern Lights Athletics. And yeah, hopefully you've received an invitation. We are doing a year-end celebration on Thursday. So hopefully you guys all received the invitation from the college. And if not, I'll leave a note to follow up on that as well. We'll be celebrating our 3 Canadian champions
Awesome.
and recognizing them there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On another note, I'd like to thank your worship for his time. I hear this is his last term, so.
Thank you. Thanks, Chad. Thank you. No, he hasn't. Our next delegation this morning, 2.5, we have Pam Beatty and Bonnie Pearson here. And so as I'm going to step aside, as Bonnie and Pam are family relatives. I don't think it's fair to them, or for us to be in the chair. And so I'm going to excuse myself with a conflict, and I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Javetkov to hear their delegation. And then deal with it later. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Bye, Dad.
Stay in the building.
Welcome. You can go ahead with your presentation. Actually, turn your mic on, first. You'll need to
Turn your mic on first.
This way.
No, there's Paul.
Awesome. What's it been?
Thank you.
Oh, I took it off. Can you? Okay.
There we go. All right. Thank you, everybody, and good morning. Thank you for allowing me to address this issue of my dog being deemed an aggressive dog. I understood at the time of the incident that wasn't an option available to me, so I'm happy to be here to try to change that today. I did bring some printout photos. I don't know if I can pass those around or not because I didn't provide them in advance, but I do have photos of Ajax with his sibling cats. I'll start, I guess, at the beginning. Thanks, Brenda. The incident that led to the designation of Ajax being deemed an aggressive dog was a one-time incident in the lifetime of this dog. He's lived with cats his entire life, and he presently has 2 cat siblings. That's one of them in the photos. I wanted to address Bylaw 4420 because I don't think it considers any previous relationships between the neighboring animals. The cat that Ajax caught had been in our yard and tormenting him since the day that we moved in. The neighbor at the time did nothing to contain his cat or his dog, and they were regularly in our yard. The bylaw considers provocation with respect to high-risk animals, but not with respect to aggressive animals. And from what I read, the bylaws indicate the difference between high-risk and aggressive is that whether or not injury or harm has occurred. So my dog, Ajax, was deemed to be aggressive because he chased and caught a cat. He ragdolled the cat. They took him to the vet. Full disclosure, the cat ended up dying because of the injuries. What was interesting in our neighborhood is that my neighbor's dog was deemed to be a high risk because he cornered a delivery person with his aggressive behavior. So across the street from me is this big dog cornering people against houses with aggressive behavior, and he's deemed at a lesser severity than my dog, and that doesn't make sense to me. I would suggest that a dog cornering a human by aggressive behavior seems much worse than a dog chasing or catching a cat. Physical injury seems to be the only determining factor, which doesn't really put all dogs in the same category. A dog willing to chase or corner a human seems much worse than a dog willing to chase and catch a cat. That's natural instinct for a dog to chase a cat. Whether the human sustained physical injury would not determine if the human was injured mentally or emotionally during such a force field of a dog holding it at bay. So I think this suggests the bylaw is inconsistent and perhaps a little unfair with those designations. Lastly, the bylaws don't consider the natural instincts of the animals. So if we're going to deem dogs aggressive for chasing cats, are we drawing the line at cats chasing birds? Because they do that all the time. And again, just stressing the natural instinct of the dog chasing the cat. My dog is in a fully fenced yard. He never goes out of the yard without us. That particular day, normally I open he's a large dog, he's about 120 pounds. And I take him out of town to walk him so he can go off leash safely without, just walking. We can go walk in the countryside. When we get home, I usually open the door. He saunters off out of the car into the gate and goes and lays down. We can leave our gate open all day long and he doesn't leave the yard. If we're there, if we're out in the front yard, he'll come to see what we're doing, but he won't leave the yard if the gate is open. On that day, he left the car running, and I think he probably saw the cat in the yard and chased it. I didn't see it, so I can't speak to it, but I just know that his behavior on that day was very different from every other day. And I guess that's it. I guess I'm hopeful that Ajax is a really lovely dog. I wanted to bring him here to meet you guys, but I wasn't allowed. If you were to meet him, he would want to jump up and kiss you and lather you with kisses. In fact, I adopted the dog after he jumped into my niece's car as a stray dog on a highway, and he just jumped in and lathered them with kisses, and well, I met him and fell in love, but. Anyways, he's a very friendly dog. The kids love him at Halloween. They all want to meet him and let him kiss them. The only time I don't even remember him being aggressive with that cat. I think he just chased the cat and caught it. I didn't see what happened at the time though, so I can't speak to that.
I just wanted to say that Pam and my mother was 93 years old, and you could trust Ajax with a 93-year-old woman. Like he's not a vicious dog.
That's just not a word you'd use to describe him, or aggressive. I understand where it came from because of the incident, but I wish you could meet him.
I wish you could meet him too.
Anyways, thank you very much for allowing me to speak to this. Like I said, I understood at the time there was no way for me to go, no way for me to get any change. So I'm hopeful this can bring some change and lower my dog licensing fees a little bit.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Is there any questions, Councillor Parslow?
Well, I think you answered one of my questions already. What is the impact on you for this designation? So it's an increased dog license fee. Anything else?
Well, I don't walk him in the city anymore, because he needs to, he would need to be muzzled and things like that. And he's just,
To put a muzzle on a dog with a heart like Ajax seems cool.
It does. Really and does. So I take him out of town to walk him, so I don't have to do
No, so I had and then full disclosure, as you were describing the event, I was thinking to myself, shoot, when I have cats come onto my place, I let my dog out to chase them off.
It's pretty natural dog
behavior. They
behavior.
are digging up my garden to defecate in, right? Now I live in the regional district, just out of Dawson Creek, right? But I confess, and anytime there's a squirrel comes on my deck, same thing. So I was thinking, wow, yeah, it is a natural thing, right? I mean,
it totally is.
Now, we don't have raccoons here, right? But I know in the lower mainland, people are plagued by raccoons, and they're thankful they've got dogs to chase them off.
Indeed.
If they caught one, I don't know if they would have an aggressive dog designation. So I'm intrigued by your presentation and confess that I was thinking about what I do.
Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. I just would like to thank you for your presentation. I would just like to clarify your ask is to have the designation of aggressive dog removed,
yes.
Right? Okay. And so I just want to reaffirm something you had said at the beginning. So the neighbor's cat has been in your yard.
Yeah, he
Not
had
just
been
this
since the
one
day we
time.
moved in. He actually jumped on my dog the first day we moved into the neighborhood.
So
The cat from a shed, a pub. So the cat was in the yard. Ajax came out the door, went, "What's this cat doing here?" And I went, "Ajax, it's your yard." And he barked at the cat. The cat went along the fence up onto a shed, and Ajax was barking, barking, barking. So I went over to try to stop him from barking. The cat jumped on Ajax and then took off. But this is the cat.
Okay. I'm going to also throw it out there that regardless of a dog, a cat, a chicken, you are responsible to keep your pets in your own yard. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Okay, I just had a couple questions. When was the designation placed?
It was in 2018.
In 2018? Was it the council here that placed it?
I think it was the SPCA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your presentation, and we'll deal with this later in the meeting.
All right.
But
Thank you
thanks.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So that then concludes our delegations this morning, and we'll move on our agenda now to any late items that I don't believe we have. Any new councillor business? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to follow up with my colleagues on council with some information I didn't have at hand in the last meeting with respect to the community cleanup, which I'm council's liaison for, and I want to thank staff for providing it, and once again thank all the volunteer groups who spent some time and the sponsors and supporters of the initiative. So some wonderful stats to consider. 62 sites were cleaned. 28 groups, 26 nonprofits, and 2 businesses which donate their stipend to nonprofits throughout the community. 663 individuals participating to clean up 291 bags of garbage and refuse throughout the city, 3 bags of recycled bottles and cans. And that also, we were able to service 20 seniors' homes spring yard through the yard waste pickup. So, great success once again of all of the initiatives through council I'm involved in. This is perhaps one of my favorite, as it really does emphasize the partnership that can exist between municipal governments and nonprofits and businesses in helping to improve a community. And I just wanted to relay those statistics to council.
Thank you. Anything further for council? Any other new business? Thank you. Item 5 is the adoption of the minutes of our regular meeting of council for May 30th for adoption. Move. Councillor Kemp, second. Councillor Wilbur. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Sorry. See how fast I got going. My apologies. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising out of the minutes for anyone? Thank you. Correspondence, item 7, or 7.1. We have a letter from Trevor O'Dwyer, the president of the Dawson Creek Seal Swim Club, regarding request for permission to allow RVs at the pool parking lot. Councillor Parsel?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we grant that request and the other items that were listed in his letter. They seem routine to me.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Wilbur? Discussion? Did you have any comment? No?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. Just one question. This is kind of new to me because I don't think this happened in the last couple of years with COVID since I've been sitting here, but is this a thing that happens annually? And if so, we have some locally owned RV parks in our community that, do we know how they are okay with using city property. I know we already compete with them a little bit, but yeah, I know their parks aren't full.
Shante?
Through your worship, this process has been going on since we've come to the 2007 to the pool. What happens is they have a very active schedule. So what happens is the swimmers will go out, anyone that's staying there, they will go out to their RV and they will have a quick break, do whatever they have to do, and it's right close. There was contact a few years ago. We have not recently contacted the RVs. We can definitely contact them again. But similar things happen for the Dawson Creek Fall Fair. Anyone that has the camping that at that place at the pool that we request this. So,
Okay. Cool.
Thank
I
you.
thought I would just ask because I haven't.
yeah,
been
if council
familiar
so
with
wishes,
it,
we can
so-
reach out
Yeah.
again if you would like us to.
No, if you've already have, that's, yeah.
Yeah, and that would be a few years ago, so.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 7.2, we have an invitation from Pauline Laidman, Administrative Assistant at the Village of Puskupi, with an invitation to for their July 1st Puskupi parade and festivities. And I'm assuming we don't need to pass a motion for information. Move for information, Councillor Parslow, second. Councillor Dober, thank you. All those in favor, all those in favor. Opposed, it's carried, thank you. 7.3, we have a letter from Connie Patterson, President of the Dawson Creek Exhibition Association, regarding request to use the For Harry Morrow ball diamonds at no cost for a slow pitch tournament during the celebration of the Exhibition Association's 100th anniversary. Councillor Parslow.
I'd move that we grant this request.
Thank you. And so thank you. I'm just going to ask a question, but if I can get a seconder first. Councillor Dober. So to staff, we would have to, because there is, it won't be a cost to them, but a cost to the city. So would that require us then to approve that through a grant for them, for those costs that we would experience? I'm assuming there would be some. Blair?
I would anticipate we would go through the grants. This is a request for a contribution from the city above and beyond what we do now for the Exhibition Association. This is a new tournament. This is the first year they will be hosting this, and I think it's primarily based on the 100th anniversary as well. So we would go through the grant funding.
Yeah. So do we have any expectation or idea, staff, have they done any work in regards to approximately how much that cost would be for us? Because it would have to come out of our grants, I'm assuming.
The request is included in here. It looks to me as though we're in the probably, I will ballpark you, $200 to $2,500 would be the range. Nobody picked up on the ballpark joke, eh?
Oh, if you want to call it a joke. So we would amend, I'm assuming, Councillor, with your motion that you're saying we would approve it, it's at no cost to them, but we would have to give them a grant in order to cover those costs?
Yes, my motion was that we grant the request as presented, and they did present two figures in the thing, and that and my reason for this is we have done some other things to support this 100th anniversary, and I thought this was a small request, and it's a nice idea. I think it's great. Brings people together, and it's a lot of people enjoy watching slow pitch.
Yeah, for sure. Councillor Dober.
Thank you, Worship. Just one question. I guess Connie's not here, but just like it looks like they use the parking lot anyway, so that it can't be used for minor ball that weekend. Is that kind of, am I getting that right? Or because this letter's from the exhibition center, not from.
Right. They have been granted permission to use the park as parking for the exhibition during the show. So they would work it out, I believe, so that half would be used for the ball tournament and half, I'm looking to you, Aaron, if I can't.
So through your worship, so that minor ball knows that they're not there that week.
Okay.
Anyway, so it's been a consistent thing that it, even the whole park that parking lot would have been used for, the exhibition, so it's just basically including this game within that, so.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. My understanding is as well that the teams are also coming from out of town, so it's not just our local group. And to your question, Councillor Dolbert, soccer and minor ball know not to schedule field use during fall fair.
Good.
It's a no game zone. I just wanted to mention for soccer too, because it was something that adult was looking at in conjunction with the slow pitch, but we're not doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. So the motion is that we would approve the request as presented, and it would result in an approximately $2,500 from our grant funding to cover the cost. Thank you. And we have the funds and room in our fund grant. Thank you. Any further comments? All those, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have an email from Jeremy Linklater, president of the Dawson Creek Dare to Dream Society, regarding request permission to have a beer garden at the music festival in Kin Park on June 23rd and 24th. Councillor Parslow.
I move that we grant this request.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Kemp, discussion? Comments? Anybody?
Well, just
Councillor Parslow, go
that
ahead.
I know that council appreciates what Jeremy does here, and I think it will help make it an even more enjoyable event, having some beer on a hot, hopefully a warm
summer day,
rain-free day.
I agree. Thank you. Any further comments? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. So we'll take a 5-minute recess now at 10:30 and be back at 10:37. A 7-minute recess.
-064 from the General Manager of Development Services. Request for additional funding for asphalt patching be received. Further, that council reallocate $400,000 from the capital reserve to put towards additional asphalt patching.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion? Thank you. I'm Councillor Dober.
Sorry, I was just finishing my apple from the break. I'm assuming like it's probably impossible to cover every street in Dawson Creek, like knowing which needs to be patched. But I know like because of the thawing and freezing we had this year, there's a lot more. But does this get like majority of the potholes in Dawson Creek for four? Because I know like driving by Canelta School where it's not as busy of a street, it's got a lot of potholes. But I don't know if like city staff would even notice that because you can't drive every street. So.
Kevin?
So through your worship, I did have engineering staff, take that drive around and look. I mean, we're aware of a lot of them as well. And so the philosophy that we tried to take is, okay, we know there's a lot of potholes. Are there ones on streets that are not maybe identified in the 5-year plan that we know we're not getting to sooner, that we need to buy some time with and get. And so the ones that are maybe in the 5-year plan that we know we're doing next year, the year after, or whatever, we can tackle those and try and just manage the potholes like internally without spending a whole bunch of money, like with these bigger patches.
Yeah.
These bigger type patches are the ones kind of like you saw outside on 12A Street here or something where we can do a skin patch because we know we're not coming to rebuild the road in the next 5 years. So that was kind of the lens we took. And to try and buy us 5 to 10 years on some of these places. What that'll do is obviously increase the drivability, the comfort of the traveling public, but also hopefully take the demands off the maintenance side that our crews are faced just trying to keep up, which we're not, able to do.
Okay.
Now, we identified over $600,000 worth of patches that we could do. So 400,000, no, is not going to do it. But we're going to try and start with what we've determined to be the worst, and work towards, the ones that aren't as bad. areas. And the ones you don't get done, then that's where we try and focus, our crews to continue to, patch away.
Yeah, thank you. That makes complete sense.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Darcy covered it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Blair?
Your Worship, just to follow through for Councillor Dober, actually, I want to make sure for the public out there, we do cover every road in this town minimum, certainly personally every month. I'm on every road in this town driving it. I know our staff are, I know Kevin, our crews, our public. There is always more potholes than there is time in the day to get fixed. We recognize that though. We run a pothole machine on a very regular basis to try and keep pace. You can have a pothole filled and it can pop out the same hole, but our roads are a key. We've had a clear focus from yourselves that roads need to be looked after, and we're doing the best we can with the infrastructure that is out there. There are challenges. We have an app out there for individuals who see something. They can report it through the app or call the city. I encourage people to do that. But without question, there are challenges within the road infrastructure. I think we've made some good progress in the last few years and continue to do so. We call what we're talking about here is not so much a patch in my mind. A pothole, to fill a pothole is one thing. These are more small overlays, I would suggest, Kevin, versus straight taking a hot mix and filling a pothole. What we're looking for here is some of the worst sections in town. But again, there is always more, need than there is dollars to get there. So.
Thank you. Councillor Dober?
Thank you. Thank you both for your clarification. I was confused a little bit because I thought this was just filling potholes, not resurfacing. So that makes, because I was like 400,000 just to fill potholes should do a lot of them. But so yeah, so thanks for your clarification and education.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? And we'll call all those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Item 9, bylaws. And we have 9.1, public notice bylaw number 4521, 2022 for consideration of adoption. Move Councillor Parslow, second Councillor Kemp. And
try something on you here.
You can go ahead. Sorry.
See how you can overrule me, which you probably can. I was doing
you always
some
have
move.
the gavel.
I'm looking nervously at the corporate officer here, right? I was going to move that the genders items 9.1 to 9.5 as presented be approved. It is all for adoption.
All for adoption?
Yeah. And I couldn't think of a procedural thing why it couldn't be, but you might find one.
I'll ask our corporate officer. Brenda?
Through your worship, that is acceptable.
Perfect. So you want to amend
That was going
you
to
would
be
have
my motion.
Perfect. We'll accept the motion for council for consideration, and it will be for agenda items 9.1 through 9.5. Is that appropriate with the seconder?
Yes.
Yes. Discussion? All those in, sorry, I got to do this. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Time's our friend. 9.6, report number 22050 from the corporate officer regarding land acquisition 1608 106th Avenue, bylaw number 4531. 2022 for consideration of first three readings. Moved. Councillor
I was going
Parslow?
to make a motion similar to the other one, that 9.6 and 9.7 be approved as presented. They're both for consideration of first three readings, so I'm just wondering.
Yes?
We got 4 months left in the term, and you just discovered.
Oh, he's.
I'm
going to give him the gavel. So we'll move 9.6 and 9.7 for first three readings. Moved by Councillor Parslow. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilbur. Any discussion on those motions? That motion? You ready for the question? Sorry, Councillor Earl, you're
No.
good? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. 9.8, we have report number 22065 from the corporate officer regarding fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4534, airport airside land hangar lease for consideration of first three readings. Councillor Earl?
Move the recommendation. Would you like me to read it out?
That's good. Second, Councillor Parslow. Discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. Mayor's business. And so, first item, School District 59 and the University of British Columbia. I've had two opportunities over the last month to meet with two graduates who are looking to move into the teaching career, and the first two were from in the senior secondary program and teaching senior secondary. And just last week we met with three who are moving into the elementary program, and it's an opportunity as a reach out program. So respectfully, each of the two groups will be here for 3 weeks at a time, experiencing the community, the region, and learning about what the community and city and region have to offer. And it was very, very positive for me to see School District 59 partnering with UBC to try to engage these graduates who are looking to begin their career. And so really appreciated the opportunity to be a part of that. The Healthcare Traveling Roadshow put on by the University of Northern British Columbia Medical Program and supported through the I think Northern Medical Program as well as the University of Northern British Columbia. And so they take this Healthcare Traveling Roadshow and they travel across Northern British Columbia, and they'll do 3 or 4 communities in the course of a year. This year they were in Fort St. John and Dawson Creek, and they have a bunch of student in the healthcare profession at various disciplines, and they travel to high schools across the north and give an overview of the various disciplines, RN, physio, etc. And so they were here a few weeks ago, and we welcomed them, had a great opportunity to have a discussion with them, and then they were at the high school the next morning. And again, just really beneficial to open up the opportunity for kids in high school to see and learn a little bit about the various disciplines in healthcare. I was invited by Mayor Clayton a few weeks ago to, she hosted the Alberta Municipalities Mid-Size Municipalities Convention in Grand Prairie, and they had a social one evening and dinner. And so I got the opportunity to go over and meet a number of our member municipalities in the province of Alberta, and there was 50 or 60 mayors there from all over Alberta. It was really appreciated the opportunity to join in with Jackie and Mayor Clayton and visit and introduce myself and our community to some of those folks. We attended a luncheon put on by Northern Lights College, student refugee giving campaign luncheon put on by the college foundation. And there are student refugees that are brought into our community, both here in Fort St. John through Northern Lights College, that are sponsored. They are absolute refugees who are brought in and sponsored for the first year from all over the world, obviously. And it's at about a $25,000-$30,000 program that is put on, and it's done all by the contributions through the college foundation. There was a young man, 24, 25 years old, from Africa. I can't remember if it was Uganda. Anyway, he was sponsored. He went through all of the different process, and he told his story to the luncheon that we were there from the local business and community, and how he couldn't believe at 24, 25 years old, he has the opportunity. He lived in a refugee camp in Africa for about 4 years, and really inspiring to see that. And so here's a program within our college that's sponsoring and giving international refugees an opportunity at life. It was crazy. And so, again, just really so proud of our community and how we're being involved in these things that are bigger than just our community, our region, our province, but the world. The Treaty 8 BC Indigenous Hockey Camp opening ceremonies were held at the Pomeroy Sports Center with the Treaty 8 folks last week ago, Friday, I think. 2-day event up in Fort St. John for Treaty 8 and Indigenous kids. And so I went and welcomed those kickoff to the event and really appreciated being part of it. And the same day I met with Michelle Carr, the new CEO of the BC Oil and Gas Commission. Just got an update from Michelle on the things that are going on within the region right now, especially in regards to the Treaty 8 Blueberry decision and how that now is moving forward in a way that seems very beneficial and positive. And also talked about a whole bunch of other things that are going on and reviewed, give me her new strategic plan and how they're moving forward with that. So really appreciated the opportunity to meet with Michelle and have a visit with her. Before I go into the other items, I just wanted to raise one more thing. I had a card dropped off to me the other day at the city, and it's in memory of our dear friend Ken Watson. And Ken was a local community guy here for as long as I remember, and he was here once a year, every year, as the president of the South Peace Crime Prevention Association. And sadly, Ken passed away a week or so ago. And so I want to just extend our condolences to Linda and Dora and family, and how much we have appreciated all of the dedication and passion Ken showed towards our community over the years. And sadly, we lost him a week or so ago. Does anybody have any questions of any of those items? Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I do, but just in the same vein, I was saddened to learn of Jack Weisgerber's death as well. Another wonderful man who had, in his quiet way, a lot of colour to him, and enjoyed some good experiences with Jack. And as school superintendent, he always received my school board and myself with absolute. He was a real gentleman, in my opinion. For sure. And I was saddened about that. But you did catch my attention when you mentioned Treaty 8 and the blueberry. From where I sit vis-a-vis with the Dawson Creek Sportsman's Club, as you know, there's a lot of concerns around the moose hunt. So has there been some resolve? When you said, a lot of positives, we know there's millions of dollars of investment has gone from this region to Alberta or other places that would have been spent here. Was that something you were referring to as being positive? Because the moose situation, from many of my friends and other people in the club, is disastrous.
Yeah. My comments with the BC Oil and Gas Commission and the economic issues that are impacted by that, where the permits were basically put on hold, so there was no development. So now we're seeing permits starting to be released by the communities and through the BC Oil and Gas Commission for that development, and low impact where there's no impact to the land, respecting the litigation that the province are dealing with on the Blueberry decision and then the greater Treaty 8. So that was my point in terms of that starting to move forward. I think the aspect of the implementation and now moving forward with the limited entry hunt and how that's impacting our local residents, our local hunters, our local population has been significantly impacted, and I know creating a bunch of controversy. There was a release signed and issued by all of the treaty, I think 4 or 5 of the Treaty 8 chiefs recently, and we should certainly can add that into our agenda information for the next meeting for folks to be able to read that. And it was absolutely my direction to the province when we were involved in this discussion, along with all of the rest of us, I think, at the Peace River Regional District when we were engaged with them, was understanding there's going to be a limited entry hunt, do not put a different lens and protocols in place to how that allocation of the limited entry hunt permits are allowed to local residents versus how you tighten it up for our residents, because it isn't a sport, it's a quality of life issue for a way of life.
Yes.
And so for folks that live here, they hunt because it's a way of life for their food supply, et cetera. And so I know that message was certainly reiterated by the 4 or 5 chiefs that issued that release recently to the province, and that was also their direction. So, but yeah, I wasn't talking about that part of it.
No,
Perfect.
but the others do it. Hopefully, it gets more gets resolved.
Yeah, we'll share that. If people didn't see that news release, we'll share that
didn't
for
see it,
council.
no,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
for sure. And also, you know, and I should have said this, that we had a tragedy out on Alaska Avenue. A young Dawson Creek boy lost his life, Riley Palfy, and horrific tragedy. And our condolences and thoughts and prayers to the family. 10.2, we have a memo in regards to the 2022 UBCM convention minister meetings scheduled for September, and the 3 that are on there. I added also, I thought the the Ministry of Health with those international student and that opportunity there, and so I'm hoping we would add those 3 in. So a motion from council. Councillor Wilbur, second. Councillor Kemp. And any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's sorry. 1 abstain. Too late, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
No.
Gets to see how everybody voted now.
I love the word abstain. Are you saying that if we don't vote, that is recorded as abstention?
I guess.
I'd love that.
No, corporate officer is not allowing that.
So we got a vote.
All in favor? Oh, gee. All those in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 10.3, we have a memo from the corporate officer regarding the Dawson Creek Pride Society requests. Councillor Parslow.
I move that the memo from the corporate officer re Dawson Creek Pride Society request be received. Further, that council's approval regarding the Pride flag being flown at City Hall on Monday, June the 13th, and for the use of the fire truck for a photo be ratified.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Dober. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Now I have to excuse myself on this one because I
So, item 10.4, delegation request from Pam Beatty and Bonnie Pearson to remove aggressive dog designation. So I don't know who's first, but
There's lots of lights out there.
yeah. Councillor Wilbur. Your light never goes off,
Never gonna
Charlie.
change. Charlie's just stays on. Wait, so through you, Chair, to staff, since 2018, has there been any other issues with this animal?
So through you, Mr. Chair, not that we're aware of, we don't have any subsequent information that says that there's been any issues.
Okay, so I don't know. Last time I touched it, Brenda said, "Don't. I got it under control." So through you, Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion that we remove the aggressive dog designation for Ajax.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Dober.
And I'll speak to that.
Is there any more discussion?
Well, I would.
Okay, go ahead.
The reason I'm making the motion is there's been no other complaints since 2018. We do have a strict policy that if you own a pet, you keep your pet in your yard. And I've heard from many different people in the community cats are the worst, destroying other people's property, tormenting and teasing their pets in their yard. So there's a difference between repeated aggression, which we've seen before with animals, compared to since 2018, there's been no problem with this particular animal. He lives with other pets. His parents seem to go above and beyond to keep him in his own yard. And the incident did happen in Ajax's yard. He did not go into a neighbor's yard and attack another animal. So that's why I'm making the motion.
Councillor Parslow?
Well, I just want to raise a question. I guess it's a point of order here. If through staff to a corporate officer, this action was taken by the SPCA, not the city. So is this motion correct? Should we not be sending a letter to the SPCA advising us of our opinion? So rather than, can we lift something that the SPCA has imposed? That's my question. I'm with you, Councillor Wilbur, in your sentiments for sure. Okay, but I'm not trying to make things muddy. Just want to, is this a proper motion? I guess is what I'm saying.
So through you, Mr. Chair, so yes, in the Animal Responsibility Bylaw, Section 19, Council Reconsideration, a person may request that Council reconsider. There's a number of things, one of them being an aggressive dog designation. So under the bylaw, Council has the ability to reconsider that designation.
But a designation imposed by another agency?
Well, they are, the SPCA works on our behalf, and they are the ones that deem, if necessary, these animals aggressive, high risk, whatever, because they're the experts in it. And then they notify us of that. But we have the ability to reconsider it. We've had some discussions, obviously, with the SPCA. There are no guarantees. I mean, animals are animals. The dog may be fine, may not be. The bylaw, the reason that this is in here, and if an animal attacks another animal or a person, they're deemed aggressive, obviously erring on the side of caution, because I think the propensity is that if they do it once, often, maybe not always, but often, there's a tend that it may happen again. So obviously we take that cautious approach, and maybe this dog is, prove us wrong on that, and that's fine. But just, that's kind of the background on it.
So if I can just clarify, so this motion is in order in the opinion of staff?
That's correct.
Okay. So just to add, if I may, to some comments, here we have a cat trespassing in somebody else's property, and the dog chases after the cat while it's on their property and actually reaches the cat and injures the cat. So the complainants about this made some interesting comments, right? If the cat attacked my pet chicken and killed it, okay, would the same rule apply to that cat? I'm just asking. I mean, it seems to me that we have, on the one hand, people should be responsible for keeping their pet on their property. That didn't happen. A dog did something that I think every dog I've had would certainly do the same thing. This dog, for some reason, gets the cat, but I bet you this goes on all the time. Dogs are chasing cats. So I'm confused. We don't know, because the SPCA made this decision. I'm hearing, correct me if I'm using incorrect language, on behalf of the city, because this is a contracted out service, right? And so we are going to, if we pass this, are going to overrule the SPA's decision. Surely we should give some comments about the enactment of this bylaw and how it's been interpreted to help the SPCA do the will of council. End of speech, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, what the way this process works is that the SPCA provides the city with the information and recommends that the dog be designated each level, and then it's a letter from myself that's provided. So it is the city that designates the dog. Based on a recommendation of professionals, yes.
I would never, ever attack you. Kevin, Shante, yes, but
Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question. Like I know Pam and Bonnie well, and I know what they're saying is, accurate, but we're like on a body that doesn't deal with any of this, and then we're just having, potentially a citizen coming in saying a different story. Like how are we to act on removing it when we don't even know the facts? Like, where the SPCA dealt with it, they know the facts. Like, wouldn't it make sense for them? Like, we're being asked as a representative of the voters to make a decision which we feel is in the best interest. But we're just, I know no disrespect to Pam and Bonnie at all, but anybody could come in here and say something that could be true, could be false. Like how is that even right that we would be put in that position to make that decision, which could jeopardize, other people in the community when we don't have the facts? Like the SPCA they look after it because that's what they do.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, you're correct. All we have is the information that we can gather on it.
Yeah.
When the designation's made, the SPCA does an investigation. They take the facts they can determine. They make the designation or they don't. In this case, we knew the request was coming in. All we can do is check to see if there's been any incidences. That's all the SPCA would do is, they'd either have a record or not of any subsequent incidents. And really, it's just you got to make a judgment call on what you hear and what's in front of you.
Does the SPCA support this? Like, have we asked them? Because we don't.
Yeah, so, we reach out to the SPCA, obviously and also in the bylaw, it's available to council to make that decision.
Yeah.
So all the SPCA is going to say is, we've had no further incidents, and they said there's no guarantees. That was the information that they gave us.
What you got from them? Okay.
Councillor Wilbur?
So through you, Chair, to staff and council, yes, in the past, we've had aggressive dog designations, and the SPCA has come and supported the decision they made based on the behavior of the animal, and the designation stayed. I remember another dog that also got aggressive designation. SPCA came. They did bring in a trainer to try and help the dog, and I think eventually, unfortunately, the animal was put down. It couldn't be retrained. So the SPCA gave the designation, but here we sit. There's nobody here telling us, this is an aggressive dog. We get continued calls. We're having multiple problems with this animal. There's no one here but the owner saying that since 2018, openly said this is the incident that happened in my yard. That cat was bothering the dog previously when they moved in there, so I'm going to take them at face value. But the SPCA has not come to tell us that this dog is a repeat offender. There's serious problems. They get multiple calls. So to me, I think we're safe to say, Ajax could be given some freedom here to, lounge about his yard without an aggressive status put on him.
Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Councillor Wilbur's point. And echoing Councillor Dober's sentiment, this is something that I would hope we would get. Relying solely on anecdote to make a decision about public safety is something I have reservations about. I have no doubt the animals' owners were here in good faith. And I would hope the SPCA, if they felt strongly about us revoking that designation, would have showed up here to voice that concern as part of the work they do with us. So I can only assume by their absence that they don't have any strong opposition to it. So I'm okay to support this. But I appreciate, I guess this is one of the instances where we serve in some kind of quasi-judicial capacity. We're being asked to make a decision that, as remote as it could conceivably be, does have risks that come with it, and I guess we'll live with the consequences. Certainly, to hear our delegates tell it, this was a kind of a one-off. They've addressed it through socializing the animal with cats since then. And there are also, as Councillor Parslow and Councillor Wilbo pointed out, mitigating circumstances such as the other animal involved in the situation was trespassing in its yard. So, I understand Councillor Dober's trepidation because I share some of it insofar as we don't have as much information at hand as we'd like. I don't know if we ever would, but I do think they've demonstrated that the animal is, poses whatever risk exists is reasonable within the context of what other pet owners have by owning a dog as well.
Councillor Wilbur, or Councillor Parslow, sorry.
Well, I've learned that it wasn't the SPCA that gave this designation. They made a recommendation which staff endorsed. Presumably, you looked at the facts and you agreed with the SPCA that a dog chasing a cat and actually catching the cat is sufficient for that designation. Am I right?
No, through you, Mr. Chair. I do base my decisions on the recommendation of SPCA, and if there's any opposition to that, if the owner wants, they can come and ask, just as Pam has done today.
So really, the complainants or the people coming here to council, right? That's part of our democratic process, right? The decision's been made, and they have that right to appeal a decision, right? And these are always difficult matters. So, yeah. So I'm supporting Councillor Wilbur's motion because my dogs would do the same thing.
So, no other comments? This issue, I mean, the circumstances are a little different than the issue we had with the dog that I believe bit an individual. It was very serious, and it was quite a costly process to have the dog examined. But since then, there was some training done here with the SPCA, and I think, for those type of issues, it's probably warranted. With this one being as how it was a cat that was in the property all the time, and, depending on the age of the dog, the playfulness and that, like, young dogs, they're quite prone to play rough, and that could have an impact there. But when a delegation comes to council and presents, that's the side that we're listening to, and that's the side that we have to make a decision on. If you don't believe them, then you decide that way, and if you believe what they're saying, then you make a decision that way. So On that basis, we can call the question. It's passed.
Um, 10.6, we had a delegation request from the, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. 10.5, the delegation request for the city to financially back the new course revitalization and allow the Dawson Creek Disc Golf to expand into Barbary and Chamberlain Park. Councillor Dober?
I don't know if I need to make a motion first, but just like after their presentation, I think it's a good thing and a great thing for the city. But with all these grant options out here and the ones Charlie was speaking about, like, do we need a motion right now if there could be a grant, or are we saying like I could make a motion saying we will help them if there is no grant? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me because why would we help them if there's a grant? But in the other case, if there is a grant and it doesn't go through, then we could help, or what do we?
I think we need two things. We need to, one, approve the expansion of the course into the other areas that they're looking for. And they're also looking for us for that consideration of financial support to move forward. And then if they're able to secure other grants through NDIT, as Councillor Parslow spoke to, then that would reduce the obligation, in my view, of what they're looking to us to support. They need that total baskets, et cetera, and in order for that to proceed, for us to give them the approval. And then if they find grants, then that would reduce our obligation, my understanding of what they asked for.
Well, I think they temporarily want to test this to see if this would work. So I'd be into making a motion to that, but to me, like from a what's best for the city point of view, doesn't make sense to approve a dollar figure we're going to give them, but let them look at a grant. Like if they're already guaranteed the money, they're probably going to still go for the grant, but if you're already guaranteed the money, why would you work hard for the grant?
So I guess, I think we need to provide them with the direction and support that through that request they made, so. So
I'll let Charlie go with his,
Go ahead. Councillor Parslow?
Well, I was going to suggest, just like you just said, two motions perhaps.
Sure.
So the first motion is that the council approve the expansion of the disc golf course as per the presentation, subject to the outcomes of a trial period, again, as they outlined in their proposal.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Dober, discussion? Anybody on that particular motion? Councillor Earl, Councillor Wilbur?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And are you ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. And second motion, go ahead. Sorry, I've got Councillor, I'm going to go back here because.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah.
That the city of Dawson Creek support an application by the Dawson Creek Disc Golf Organization for an NDIT grant. Period.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Wilbur? Go ahead.
So the intention there is by this motion and not making any mention of city contribution, we are expecting them to apply. They were concerned about capital. You don't have to have some money there if you're doing a lot of work in kind. That can be an equivalency, okay? So I believe they have the capacity to apply with this expansion of a replacement of their baskets with a significant contribution coming from their voluntary labor. And we would await the outcomes of that. Now, if the outcome is not favorable, we can then discuss it further from a budgetary matter from the city.
Thank you.
Because it can't be in this current fiscal year. It's next fiscal year, and we'll deal with that budget preparation in the fall.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Two questions. And I guess it's to Councillor Parslow as our NDIT rep. Would the expansion of the disc golf course be considered in kind by NDIT from the city? And secondly, is the next intake and approval from NDIT going to hit their fall timeline?
Okay, so there will be another meeting. I'm attending a meeting this Friday. So 3 months from now, which is July, or be by early September. So the ordering, if they get the grant, they will know within, well, as it's less than 100,000, they'll know immediately. So I'm going to say by early September, they will know. The expansion, in other words, the granting of the use of this would not be, considered a contribution, but it would certainly be a necessary prerequisite, which is being granted to them, and would help. They would be able to say the city of Dawson Creek, right, has done da-da-da-da-da-da, and there's a trial period, all completed, you know what I mean? So all the preliminary work, I get surprised sometimes by NDIT stuff, to be honest, but I will explore this unofficially if I'm wrong and advise council.
And the other piece to that is we don't know if we can help them with the grant writing because.
No, I will do that for them.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that, and that was not a mischievous question. I'd lost track whether it was just within the city or the city. So Blair's stated that. So it will happen. I'm very comfortable writing all those grant applications myself, and I have written some under the.
All right, thank you. Councillor Javetkov?
I think the NDIT is based on economic development. So if you develop a case as an economic development issue, they will support it normally. Yeah. So, there was lots about economic development in there. As far as giving them money, we had an issue this morning where we are drawing on reserves to do some patching. So it's a matter of priorities. Buy baskets for disc golf or pave roads. Pretty simple decision for me. And because they're an organization, they have lots of members, they can do fundraisers of their own. Beans and Jeans is a great one because it's very low overhead. What you invest in it, you make way more profit. So you can look on the internet, search fundraising, and you'll get 1 million hits on things you can do. Just like the other clubs. We don't buy soccer balls for the soccer people. We don't buy golf balls for the golf club. anyways, I think NDIT is a good start.
Thank you. Do I have any other comments, questions? You ready for the question? Go ahead. The motion back, please.
The motion was to accept the application from Disc Golf for an NDIT grant.
To support. The motion was to support the disc golf in the application to NDIT. So we would send a letter of support, as we often do with other things, and then that would kickstart the whole process.
Thank you.
Was that understood by my fellow councillor?
Yeah, I think Darcy just had a question.
Yeah, so one question maybe to Brenda. I just know in the past, like when some motions are made and approved and then they can't be brought back. Like if this is made and then they go to NDIT and can't get the grant, can they still come back to a request to the city?
We'll still have to, as was indicated, we do the capital budget program in the fall.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't meet it, then that process of discussion of council and the capital budget, if it's a request at that time, and I think that's what I heard, is that we will, if they don't qualify for the grant, that they'll bring it back in for discussion for council and the capital budget discussions.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Any further discussion? We ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Earl.
I asked a question earlier of staff with respect to third-party advertising, similar to what we allow for at the soccer field. I know down at the golf course, not our property, but they do sell hole sponsorships. Is that something the Disc Golf Club would have to approach us about? Or could we proactively work with them to help them generate some revenue there? Because, as I said, provided it's nothing too ostentatious or obnoxious, I don't see how that does not give them an opportunity to get some revenue.
Through you, Your Worship, we will look into that through our sign bylaw and the regulations now in place. I can't give you a definitive answer. We've just dealt with the sign bylaw, and at first thought, it may be a challenge to put advertising in our parks, but as you indicated at our soccer pitch, we have it. So let us look into that. If the opportunity is there, we will work with the Disc Golf Association, and if it isn't, we'll inform you if changes are necessary if you wanted to so entertain.
Okay, and is that something you require direction on by way of a motion? Brenda's nodding yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I move that thing I just said. We'd ask staff to bring back some information. What am I moving?
We'll review the
review the sign bylaw to ascertain whether or not the Disc Golf Club can have third-party advertising within public parks as part of their course.
Thank you. Do I have a second there? Councillor Wilbur?
Just for maybe to narrow that a bit, possibly what a third-party advertising in parks is a very broad statement.
Whole sponsorship, specifically?
Yeah, I would suggest it would be narrowed to the whole sponsorship based on being attached to the actual bin or the tee-off part, something like that versus...
Yeah. So you guys can
we
have
will
them
look into
review it
that
and bring
though.
that back for council so we can understand what they can or cannot do.
Does that satisfy Brenda? Okay,
Thank you.
Good.
Councillor Wilbur?
Thanks. So the delegation did mention where they look at sponsorship advertising was on the tee box itself. So you're actually, you're standing on it. It's not a sign. It's not something that sticks out of the ground. It's on the pad that they stand on that they had put advertising before when they did the trial run.
And we will work closely with the association as well to make sure that their needs and requests are what we're going to investigate.
Yeah, we don't want signage.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Sorry. All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Don't look at that one. Cancel it.
I'm going to go back then, Brenda, and so Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 10.6, we had a delegation request to upgrade the Lakota Agriplex to accommodate the hosting of the Intercollegiate Rodeos in Dawson Creek. Councillor Javetkov.
I'll move that we approve the request.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kemp, discussion? You ready? Councillor Javetkov, go ahead.
You know, there's a lot of discussion since we built the Lakotaplex, so since we approved it. And it was based on connecting the community with the agricultural community, and I supported it strongly, and I still do. But this is an example of, you know, with the college partnering with the Lakota Center to put on rodeos for college groups. It's, to me, it's just excellent.
Thank you. Further comments? Are you ready? Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
Yes, just because of the mention of the high school rodeo, I remember many, many years ago, a request to have the high school rodeo, and it was in Chetwynd. And I had to have the risk management group in government to look into that and give special insurance approval for that. So I'm just a curious question, as one of my long-term school board chairs used to say, I've got a curious question here. When we hold events like that, which do have some risk to them, right, just like bull ride in that, do we have to get special insurance coverage? And who pays the cost?
Through your worship, through the lease, every renter has to have third-party advertising with the city named harmless. Insurance, sorry. I got advertising in my head, I apologize.
I've got confused.
Insurance, all of our leases have that. So everyone has to have the proper insurance to be able to, at their cost.
At their cost.
The city does not pay that,
Good.
or the leasee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? And are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And so we'll now move to item 11, our Chief Administrative Officer update.
Your Worship, not a lot to report today. Obviously, spring is finally here, maybe even summer if we're that brave to call it that. Grass is growing. I just encourage people as they cut their lawns to, if they can, not blow it all over the sidewalks, not blow it out onto the freshly cleaned streets. It befuddles me to think that that would be appropriate in anybody's eyes out there. We then have to come back to clean. For those people that do it and then go out and clean up, I thank them for that. For those that blow it all over the sidewalk and the streets, I ask them to respect their neighborhood and the community and clean up after themselves. I think a tidy town is important, and it just, as I said, it's an ask I have on behalf of the city of Dawson Creek to try and keep our community looking as nice as it can. Other than that, Your Worship, nothing. Spring is upon us. We are out doing due diligence in our parks, obviously with the moisture we've had and the inability to get into some of the parks because of the moisture. The grass has taken off on us. We will be pursuing that in a major manner over the next week to 10 days. So,
thanks, Blair. Diary, anything new? Dad? Consent calendar, we got a couple items. Is there anything anybody would like to lift from the consent? Have a motion to approve the consent calendar. Councillor Wilbur, second Councillor Kemp. All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried, thank you. And strategic priorities, nothing new?
nothing to report, Your Worship.
Any media? And so motion to recess to close, please. We have agenda items 4.1, which are section 90 minutes. Agenda item 8.1 is section 91K, negotiations related to discussions regarding provision of municipal service. And agenda items 9.1, 10.1 are labor relations or other labor relations. Employee relations move, Councillor Wilbur. Second, Councillor Kemp. All those in favor? Opposed? In favor? Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. And so we'll take we're going to take a really quick 3-minute break while we allow Carl to
It takes
set up.
Carl 7 minutes to pack up.
We'll take a 7-minute recess while Carl vacates to get back to close. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.